White House correspondent Mary Ellis Parks joins me live now for more on this. Mary Ellis, how are Republicans responding to this address?
Yeah, Dan, we've heard some Republicans call this speech divisive. Mostly they say it misses the point right now. They acknowledge that this election is really going to turn on issues of the economy and inflation. I mean, of course, the president understands that, too. Democrats understand that, too. But still, President Biden thought this was such an important speech to make and an important point to make. Interesting, it's not just Republicans making this criticism. I've also seen some more progressive Democrats that have said, really, they think that the White House should be focusing larger, bigger picture on an economic argument, laying out what else the White House would do on the economy. I thought that the president's tone, though, was interesting. Compared to what we've seen lately on the campaign trail, I think this is probably one of the speeches aimed the most at Republicans, at moderate Republicans, conservative independents. I think this was a speech where he was trying to persuade people who maybe in the last few months were getting more comfortable with the idea of voting for someone that had denied the last election, and he was basically saying he hopes that they won't.
Mary Alice, what kind of threats are law enforcement officials monitoring ahead of Election Day, and what precautions are in place to prevent violence at the ballot box?
Yeah, Dan, a lot of precautions. Obviously, law enforcement at the federal level, at the state and local level, on absolute high alert right now. Everyone is paying attention to this. They want to make sure that voters feel safe and confident and that poll workers feel safe. It's been interesting looking at some of the bulletins that have been coming out from state law enforcement agencies, largely talking still about the threat of disinformation, how one post on Facebook potentially, that says that there's an incident could spiral out of control, could create confusion or chaos or fear. I think that that's largely what law enforcement is still worried about, that some isolated incidents or isolated moments of disinformation or misinformation online could keep people from voting. The message from law enforcement is that, of course, it will be safe to vote and people should still vote, but everyone is paying attention to this.
Now, President Biden says the MAGA movement is a minority in the Republican Party, but also its driving force. What do you think he means by that, and who is he trying to reach here?
Yeah, like I said, I think he's really trying to reach across the aisle to independent voters, moderate Democrats, conservative leaning Republicans, and the people that are in the middle, that are swingable. I'm thinking about a conversation I had just this last weekend in New Hampshire, a voter that described himself as a Republican, but he said his wife and all of his daughters are Democrat, and that this year he voted Democrat. He said he was just tired of what he described as MAGA Republicans. I think that that's the kind of voter the president is trying to reach. What's been interesting is in these last few weeks, how many pretty extreme Republican candidates who had denied the results of the last election have been more and more embraced by more mainstream or moderate Republicans, sitting incumbents who have kind of put their arms around some of these folks and kind of brought them along. And I think that surprised Democrats who thought that it would be easier to beat folks that they used to see as more of the fringe of the Republican Party, but right now are not so much the fringe, but all sort of operating as one party altogether.
Now, former President Trump announced a number of rallies in battleground states for the next few days, but he has not scheduled any events in Georgia, which could decide control of the Senate again. What's the strategy there?
My guess is that the candidates didn't want him. They didn't think that it would be helpful. I mean, remember last time he went there when there was a runoff in Georgia and basically talked so much about how he thought elections were rigged and stolen and fake that the concern from Republicans is that it might have discouraged Republican voters from going out to vote. In fact, he even sort of made some comments 2 years ago about whether it was worth it to vote. I think that this time in Georgia, both parties, Republican and Democrat, are trying to get every single last voter out to the polls. Also interesting, though, that President Biden has not gone to Georgia. So in both instances, these two main figures, these huge figures, leaders of their own parties, not going there into this crucial battleground state really says something, I think, about how popular the two of them are and their ability to reach across the aisle. It looks like Georgia candidates want to do this on their own.
All right, Mary Alice Parks, we appreciate it as always. Thank you. And ABC News Live will have complete coverage all day long of the 2022 midterms on Election Day, Tuesday, November 8th, beginning at 7 a.m. Eastern, and special election night coverage led by David Muir, Lindsay Davis, and the entire ABC News Powerhouse political team beginning at 7 p.m. Eastern. And be sure to check out the groundbreaking political series Power Trip, hosted by George Stephanopoulos. He brings viewers inside the top stories of the 2022 election campaign each week from an unparalleled perspective. We'll have back-to-back episodes airing right here on ABC News Live this weekend at 5 p.m. Eastern and streaming anytime on Hulu.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.